In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a new design here. So let's go ahead and just create a new document. And let's go ahead and import our artwork. Now I'm using CorelDRAW X6, and I'm using the 32-bit version of CorelDRAW, but I'm working on a Windows 64-bit computer. Now, the purpose of this video obviously is to teach you how I go about creating rhinestone designs, but it's not necessarily focused on EasyStone. Although there are a few functions that I'm going to be demonstrating that are probably specific to EasyStone, the general process of creating the rhinestone design is really the purpose of the video. It's not really to learn specifically how to use EasyStone. It's to understand the thought process that I use to go about creating the design. There's lots of capable rhinestone design software out there, but not much information on how to actually use that software to create especially more complicated designs. Now, I will tell you that EasyStone is a free download, doesn't cost anything, it's fully featured. You can download it, install it, and use it. We have hundreds of videos on YouTube. If you go to EasyStone Templates on YouTube, you'll find all kinds of videos about all kinds of things when it comes to EasyStone. EasyStone only works with the 32-bit version of CorelDRAW. That's the one catch. And it's not a big deal in terms of what we're doing with Rhinestone Design. It's not relevant to use a 64-bit version of CorelDRAW. It's not any quicker, so you won't see any performance difference between using the 32-bit version of CorelDRAW or the 64-bit version of CorelDRAW. When I created EasyStone, years and years and years ago, there really wasn't any plugins for CorelDRAW back then. And back then, there was only a 32-bit version of CorelDRAW. And EasyStone was really created more for me than it was to sell. Now, at one time, we did used to sell EasyStone, but it's been years and years ago. Now it's just a free download. Anyone can use it. But I never upgraded the code to work with the 64-bit version of CorelDRAW when it came out a few years back, because there was never a need to. It works perfectly fine in the 32-bit version, so there was no real compelling reason to use the 64-bit version of CorelDRAW. As far as I'm concerned, there still is not any reason to even use the 64-bit version of CorelDRAW for doing any kind of design work. That the average person, most of our computers that are sold by default at Best Buy and what have you, don't really have the excess RAM and things that 64-bit version programs can even take advantage of. So anyhow, the purpose of the video primarily is to talk about the process of designing, not so much EasyStone. But you can go to our website, easystonetemplates.com. You can download the software. It does not come with any support, folks. It is a free download. Like I said, there's hundreds of videos on how to install it, how to use it, how to design with it. If you struggle and you can't get it to work, you can pay me to help you, and I will help you for as long as you've bought the support package. It's $149. And you can ask all the questions you want, and I'm happy to help. I love to make training videos of specific designs that you might like to see how I would go about creating a specific design, because I think that helps all users of EasyStone, or really all rhinestone designers. The type of videos that, especially like this video we're about to go through, these videos don't exist anywhere else, as best to my knowledge. No one else will show you this type of design, because it's not what I would consider easy. We're focused on creating quality content, quality designs, and most of the other videos that you see on Rhinestone Design, they're focused on selling software. So they want to show you very basic designs, and sometimes they'll even show you complex designs, and they'll say, hey, this I created this in 5 minutes. They won't show you every single bloody step. I will absolutely show you everything from the very first stone to the very last, so you can see exactly what it truly takes, because I'm not out to sell software. I'm just out to share knowledge. So with all that said, let's go ahead and import some artwork here and take a look at our next design here. So somebody submitted this. They said, hey, show me how to do it. That and the fact that they want the design also. So there is our source graphic. So step one is to set our size. And so we're going to go over the specialty tab. Now this particular function probably is specific to EasyStone, but it's a real simple function. We're just going to click the very left part of our design and then our very right part of our design. So we see that right now it's 3.3 and we want it to be 10. And then typically I will lower the transparency of the image. So I click on my transparency tool here in CorelDRAW and go to uniform transparency, and that will add a 50% transparency. When we apply stones to this, we'll be able to see it a little bit easier. Okay. Then we'll right click on our design and lock our image. Okay, so the first thing that I see in this design is the word Cougars, and what we might do, what you might be inclined to do, is to apply some text. If so, there's these things called Rhinestone fonts that are fonts that we can buy that are pre-stoned. So, and we can apply. We can sometimes use those pre-stoned fonts. And I'll just show you real quick here. I like to show it in every video. So all we've done is we typed out some text. Now, I do have some pre-stoned fonts here. I never use the pre-stoned fonts, hardly ever, just because I just don't think they're really that particularly useful. But if I wanted to apply Cougars to this path, I just created an oval shape that was more or less the same curvature as the existing artwork. If I want to apply that to this path, all I would do is click on Cougars, hold my shift key, click on my path, and then I can right click, or actually, well, there's a couple of different ways I can do it, but actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click on my text and drag it over to my outline and then let go, and I get the fixed text to path option. Now you can see here one of the issues that we have, and most of the times you will have with pre-stoned fonts, is that this appears to be much smaller than the original text. But we don't actually know what size circle that is. We don't have any clue if that is even the finished size circle. So a little bit extra work here. So we have our text typed out. We're going to go to the font tab and break that text apart. And now what we have is a bunch of individual circles. But we don't know how big those circles are. So what we're going to do is select a circle. And I've created all these things in EasyStone because it just makes it so much easier. But what we're going to do is right click on this scale design option. Now you can see that our current stone size is 3.4. By selecting one of these existing dots and right clicking on SD, we told EasyStone what size the existing dot is. We've told EasyStone what size we want it to be, which is this 3.4 millimeters. So when we click, now we're not right clicking or left clicking, or we're just going to click on SD and it's going to scale that so that now if we select one of those dots, it is in fact 3.4 millimeters. Let's just kind of over exaggerate this. Let's make it really tiny so you can see what's really happening here. Select a dot, right click to tell EasyStone, okay, this is what we're starting out with, and then left click and you can see it will scale it, and we select a dot and it is an exact 3.4 millimeters. Perfect. That's what we want. So what we would do then, if we're going to put this on our path, we can't do that. So because now all we have is a bunch of dots. So what we will do is type out the word Cougars. There we go. And we will change our font. And then just for simplicity, all I'm going to do is to just scale this so it's approximately the same size as this. And now we know that those, maybe they're not exactly 3.4 millimeters, but they're pretty close. If we were to come in here and grab a guideline, snap it right there, grab a guideline, snap it right there, you could see that it's pretty close to the same dimension, okay? And that's all we need to do. We don't need it to be exact. So now what I'm going to do is select that text with my text tool, and it will give us a point size of 160.177. Okay. So now that we already know that it's approximately the same size, we're going to go ahead and just right click on this and do that same thing, fit text to path. And so we know that this was approximately the same size as that. And now look at how big it is compared to our original text. Okay, this is why, like I was saying at the beginning, we very, very seldom would ever use a rhinestone, a pre-stoned font like this, because it often won't match up to what it is we're trying to create. Okay, so while I do have a few fonts that I had previously stoned, I don't use pre-stoned rhinestone fonts anymore for that very reason. Now, is there something that we could do to perhaps use that font? Well, there is another option. Let's go ahead and take this dot, right click on SD, and let's change our stone size to SS6 and click on Scale Design. Now we know that those dots are all SS6 dots. So now we can take our text, get it approximately the same size as that, and now we could go ahead and apply that. Let me back up a second here, because I forgot I deleted my path. But if I were to redraw that curvature there, so now I have my curve again. Now I can right click, apply this text to the path, fit text to path, and now, yes, that is a little bit more representative. It is closer in size to our Cougar text, and we could technically use it. I'm still not going to use it, but we could technically still use that. Okay, so but I am going to get rid of that because we're not going to use that. We're going to just go ahead and stone this design. All right, so now we could go ahead and begin the process. We could start right there with Cougars if we want to. The first thing we have to do is we have to determine what size rhinestones we want to use and how those rhinestones relate to the artwork that we're trying to create. So I always, at the beginning of every design, I know I'm going to use 10s and 6s on this design. So I'm going to right click on SS10, add a stone, change it to SS6 and add one more. And so now I have the two sizes stones that I intend to use, and now I have a pretty good idea of what's going to work. So let's just move that stone up here and take a look. So could we get 2 stones wide for this part of the text? We could, possibly. It would probably be easier to do with an SS6 stone than it would be. So you could do something like this. So you can see it would probably be a little bit easier to do with SS6 stones. But I think what I'm going to do for this design is the Cougars, I'm just going to do with a single stone. So we'll go ahead and do SS10 for this example. And all I'm going to do is just kind of place these stones a bit randomly here. I don't care about the actual stone spacing because we fix that at the end, always, always, always. See? And so here it's a little bit tight at these corners where they're real sharp corners there. So we can just kind of fine tune those just a little bit. And there we have our letter S stoned out. So here for our letter R, we're going to go from top to bottom, and then we could just click add stones, and that will add a series of stones in there for us. Now on our R like this, we can kind of come out here. I'll show you what I would do here. Okay, so on this design, we got to, it's a fairly small area, so we got to make sure that we can get the definition we want so it's recognizable that it is actually an R. So we'll go ahead and select these and space those nice, and I think that looks pretty representative. It will be easier to see once we pull it apart and put a weed box behind it, but we'll just keep going here for a moment. We'll select those two stones and hit add stones. It'll calculate what we need in between. And then we'll come over here. And you know, the artwork is just it's just a guide. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be just exact to the original artwork. Okay, so that was pretty straightforward. Now I'm going to skip over to our O because our C and our G and even the U to a certain extent is all a derivative of the O from the way I see it anyhow. So let's go ahead and just place, and all I'm doing is moving that stone and hitting my space bar. Okay. And now I'm just going to select all of those stones, pick a spot here, and right click on D, and that's going to space them all out. Now there's a few too many, so I'm just going to right click and delete a few. And then I'm just going to fine tune some placements at the corner. You see how this corner is? How it's kind of, oh, I don't know, how do you, like a 45? I'd like all the corners to be like that. So I'm going to make that small adjustment to all the corners, purposely. And then I'm going to sort the stones just from corner to corner. Okay, so those are sorted. Now from here, I think I'm going to go ahead and go around this corner and around this corner and try that. So I'm not doing the bottom part. See what that gets me. So I still have my 45s at all the corners, and I'm happy with that. Okay, so there is our O. So now let's move that over. We're going to have to rotate it a little bit. Remember I was saying it was kind of the O was kind of derivative of everything else. So we can get rid of our C, or that one stone, and that kind of creates our C. Now if we want to, we could even go one more step here. Do something like that. And then what I'll do is I'll just select, I'll go all the way around and just right click, space them all out just a little bit. So that takes care of our C. Now we'll go back to our O here. Use that for our G as a kind of a jumping off point. Okay, so Again, I would probably just delete that, bring that down here a little bit, bring this down, just give it a little bit more space there. So it's a little bit easier to see. And that looks good to me. So now we'll go ahead and select all of these stones all the way around. And go ahead and right click on D, space them all out. That takes care of that. And then for our U here, I think I'll just go back to doing, just throwing some stones down here. Now let's just take all of these, space them evenly. That spacing feature in Easy Stone's pretty killer. It really solves a lot of issues. And so there is our Cougars text all done with a single stone. All right, so what would I do next? Well, next I would go ahead and focus on the word football. Everything else, pretty simplistic. Let's go ahead and do the word football. And we're going to basically do more of the same. We can see if we look at, look down here, that the outline is roughly the same, one stone width. You'll see it here as an SS10. So what I would do is go ahead and we'll place in some stones like so. Now you got to keep in mind that once we do this outline, we're going to have to fit in the stones for, actually this one we won't have to. I got to thinking about this. Well, I don't know. I guess I should have asked about that. I guess what we're going to do is we're going to just create this as one color design. I did not think to ask if they were looking to have the inside of the letters. But what my point was is if they were going to do the inside letters in a secondary color, we would have to make some adjustments for the outline to accommodate that. For this example, though, I did not think to ask, so I will just go with the easy route and say, well, they weren't intending to do that. They're just going to do one color outline. Now, something we should talk about, because I hear it a lot, especially with people who are new to the business. Okay, so if you're new to the rhinestone business, first thing you really should understand is when we're using two sizes of rhinestones, because you'll see that most of my designs do in fact use two sizes of rhinestones. If you're really paranoid, petrified, then just cut it out of holographic vinyl for right now. And you can utilize all of these designs that I have. So most of my designs will have two sizes of rhinestones to them, and that's because I think it looks so much better most of the time if you have two different size rhinestones in any design. It just, to me, it just looks way nicer. So that's tip number one. You don't necessarily have to use these designs as rhinestone designs per se. So you could definitely cut this design out of holographic vinyl, t-shirt vinyl, and not have to concern yourself with using two different size rhinestones. The other thing I want to point out that often gets overlooked, and in fact we have some YouTube videos on making rhinestone transfers, but and I don't think it's talked about enough, is the fact that you can create rhinestone transfers with one template using two different size stones. We have videos that show you how to do it. There's other videos online that show you how to do it. And it's just like anything else. When you first attempt to do that, you'll probably be frustrated, but only because you don't know what you're doing. once you really understand and have done a lot of transfers with 2 different sizes of stones on a single template, you'll find that it's really not any more complicated once you do in fact understand what you're doing. So practice makes perfect, obviously, but I would go ahead and take the time to try some and learn that technique. There's actually a lot of good reasons to use more than one size stone on a template because, as you know, template material is expensive. And there's often times where if we need a second color in a design and we were to use a different size stone for that secondary color, then you only have to have one template. Even though you'll have 2 different sizes of stones on that one template, you can use, 2 different colors and save the cost of making a secondary template. So if you're just doing all SS10s for both colors, well, then it's not as easy to just use one template. But if you could use SS16, for example, with one color and then use SS10 for the other color, well, then you could get by with just using one template. So, and in the video demonstration that I do, I think I use a football where I show you how we use 2 different size stones and some other techniques too. So you can use one template with multiple colors even if you are using the same size rhinestone in some cases. And I show you in my video how to actually do that as well. Okay? So you can see what we're doing here. We're just kind of methodically going around. And I will tell you this, once you see this finished design, you will not get this with any other type of rhinestone software in an automated push button, quote unquote, simple way. And this design will have a very different look than any type of automated design that you could possibly create. So for me, when I'm creating a design, I don't care about how long it takes to create that design. My only focus is what the design looks like on the finished garment. So I'm happy to take all the time I need. I've done some really, if you look at our library there on our website, easystonetemplates.com, I've done some really intricate rhinestone design work and that sometimes have taken hours to do. Sometimes I remember with this one design I spent probably a day and a half on. So it was a really intricate design. So it took a long time to do it. So I don't mind taking all of the time to create the design if it's gonna make it look better. So you can kind of see what we're doing. We're just kind of taking each segment here, and then I'll go in and sort all these rhinestones out. Space them all out there. It's just really a straightforward process. So my first goal here is to get all of my outlining done, and then I'll come back in with my paw here and take care of all that. So the first part, just get the outline accomplished. And I wish I would have remembered to ask if we were going to do a fill on the letters. I'm guessing the way the design is, we're not doing a fill on the letters. So keep that stone count down, which obviously will make the garment more economical. Or if you're doing spangles or something, it would make it. And I always, just because of my OCD, I always, even though that spacing is pretty close, I always come in and let the software space it so that way I know it is exactly, those stones are exactly the same space. See, we can already tell this stone is closer to that. And so those little things bug me, and I don't know why. That's just the way my brain works. So that's why I have that feature in there. It's got to be, each one of those segments has got to be properly spaced. So I know all those stones are now nice and even. So remember, when you're placing these stones, you can overlap them, because remember, we're going to come back in, space that next segment. So we missed a stone there somehow. So there we go. Nice and evenly spaced. So you see what we did there? We used some SS6s right at that Y junction there, and then we're just gonna come in here, get it close, space all them apart. So now you can see they're all nice, perfectly spaced. And these types of areas are always tough to do with rhinestones, because you just got a little bit of a fill area there to contend with. So don't be afraid to use a couple SS6s here and there. To me, it's just going to make the design look better anyhow. Let's go all the way up here. Let's sort all these stones while we're at it. The nice thing about doing these step-by-step video demonstrations is, hopefully you learn the process, but then everything's done in real time. So you'll know exactly how long this whole design took once the final video is completed. Okay. I don't see a lot of video demonstrations on more complicated designs like this, especially starting out with a bitmap like we're doing. But I would love to challenge someone out there with the know-how. Let's see your process of how you would go about creating the same design with the software that you're using, and what process you might use that would be different, because sometimes you can learn off of what somebody else is doing. You might be doing something a certain way, and then you see somebody else do something, and you're like, you know what, I could incorporate that, make a small tweak, and I could do that with the software that I'm using, or something like that. So um, I wish there was more of this type of demonstration out there, uh, because I personally, I would be interested to see how somebody else designs, but I've never seen anyone ever design something more complex like this. They talk about that it can be done, but actually showing us how to do it, I've never seen uh, any type of demonstrations done like this. I've seen some beautiful designs out there, uh, some pretty intricate designs, and it was well done. Now, was it done any differently than what I'm showing you here? I don't know. And then I've seen some intricate designs that, for lack of a better word, that were slapped together and not as nice of finished product. You know, you could see the design could be done real well, uh, but then sometimes it's just kind of slapped together and not as perfected as what I would like to see on a finished garment. So I'm not really happy with the way these two stones come together right there. So I will make a small change there. And just respace those. That's where those SS6s are sure handy, because you could just come in there. Now, let's see here. Nope. I thought we could possibly use part of the other part of the design that I had already made, but no. Sometimes I will do that, though. Like with these two O's, for example, the center portion, when I stone that, I'll copy it from one to the other, for example. I would not stone each one of those because they're nearly identical, if not absolutely identical. So, save us the time. All right. Switch that out to SS10 and this one too. Come down here. Okay, so I'm going to just sort all those stones out. Oops, we grabbed an extra stone we shouldn't have. So that's why we get that result. Let's try that again. Let's go to wireframe mode. I feel like I'm seeing something I shouldn't see. Something's happening here. Let's go back over here and try it again. Better, but no. I don't know really what's happening here. Let's do this. Let's just use this side. Sort that. That's better. We'll sort that. That looks better. Okay. So now that we have that, we're just going to copy that over. Because like I say, it's nearly identical. Close enough. If not identical. Okay. What else we got left? I'm going to put one. That will kind of cap off that T right there. I'll lower those to 6s and space them out even. I'm going to make that a 10. Let's do that. Then we'll space them out. And this will just be 10 all the way across. And then I'm going to come all the way down here. And then we can just add stones and manipulate our path a little bit. Come here. We'll add stones there. Now this will have to manipulate our path quite a bit. But we can add as many stones as we need to go fit around that corner. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add these. This spacing is pretty tight, or this spacing is considerably more loose. So we'll go ahead and space all those out. Shuffle these stones down a little bit. That looks pretty good. So we'll run with that. But you see what we did there? We used those smaller stones, get a little bit more definition around that F. And then we went back to the bigger stones there. And because I think it'll fit better, I went to two 6s. So we're going to go from this corner all the way around to that corner. Okay, then we'll manipulate our path a little bit. And we're going to manipulate those two stones so they're not overlapping. So let's do that quick. Slight shuffle there. So then we're going to go all the way around the corner there. Let's take our path and manipulate it. We double click on our path, that'll add a control point for us. You see all these extra control points that we have now. So we can just manipulate that as we need to. Then we'll just keep clicking, adding some stones along that path till we're happy with their stone spacing. All right, so let's take a look at what we've accomplished up to this point. We're going to go ahead and select our Cougars text here. And so there's what we have up to this point. So you can see it just looks really good. You know, the spacing looks good. All of our definition looks good. So, you know, it's very legible as to what it says, what it's supposed to say. So I'm pleased with where we're at so far. All right, so let's go ahead and knock out our paw here because it's pretty straightforward stuff. So what we're going to do is just kind of use the existing artwork as our guide. That simple, okay? So then here, we're going to first of all create a container. And obviously we're here a little bit trimmed off, so we'll just eyeball it. So then we've got to go to our freehand pick tool and sort all these rhinestones out. Make sure they're all evenly spaced, and now they are. And now we have to fill our container, and we just do that quite simply. We do want to use some SS6 stones, get a nice proper fill. Okay, boom, taken care of. Back to our container. Okay, so again, we're going to select all of our rhinestones. And I'm happy with that stone spacing. I can live with that. So here, And once you've done rhinestones for a while, you kind of just can tell what's going to look best. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and just use a 6 and a 6. And then we're going to space all of these. Then we'll space all of these and call it good. Now here, you can see we don't have a whole lot of choice of how this is going to fit. Let's see here. I think what we'll do is put that to a 6 and that to a 6 and that to a 6. This to a 6. See, so that kind of create that pretty easily. This we're going to drop down to a 6. So we can sneak that one in there, and then we'll sneak that one there. We'll drop that one to a 6. Go ahead and create this container. Alright, so now let's go ahead and select that line. Make sure those are nice and evenly spaced. And now we can just fill it in. We can space all those. Let's go ahead and try moving that to a 6 and squeezing that in there. That gives us room for that. I'm happy with that. So now we just got these last two. Now these, because they're basically the same size and similar to this, let's just go ahead and grab what we've already started there and just make our small modification that we need to make. Because it pretty well is already all in place there for us. So we're just going to select our whole outline here. See, that took care of that. And we can make a couple of adjustments, give us just a little bit of room there. I'm happy with that. So now we'll go ahead and copy this over. And just for fun, we're going to rotate it around. Then it'll be slightly different. It'll appear different when in actuality it's the same. All right, now let's take another look. We got another major piece of the design done. So do we like that? Pretty happy with that. So now let's just the football part of the design. So where do we begin here? Well, what I would do here is we'll go ahead and start right here at the point. So let's grab a SS6 stone and copy it up to the point where I think I can switch over to SS10. So we'll go right to there, Shift AS. That is going to add a bunch of rhinestones. Oops. Didn't mean to accidentally delete the whole line. Okay, so now we're going to add an SS10 rhinestone. And we're going to come all the way up to here. Pull that down. So obviously we're going to do 2 rhinestones there up to a certain point. And let's just do it right there. Go ahead and drop that down to a 6 as well. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and grab our freehand pick tool and grab some stones here along the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and space all those nice and evenly apart. Then we'll grab all these other stones here. And we'll space those apart. And then that will take care of that part of the design right there. Okay. So then we'll kind of do the same thing at the bottom here. Let's start up here. We've got our 2 stones there. I'm going to go ahead and make that a 6. And let's see, we're going to put that down to a certain point here. Okay, so there's some 6s. And then we've got our 10s in place. Now, this might be a good way to, so we've got this curvature in this line, but right here, do you see how when we did when we placed 2 different stones there where there's like a little dip there, so to speak? Well, what we can do actually is just create a nice curved line, something like that. And you'll see all those stones, if we right click there, see how they all snap to that line now? So now we have a nice smooth transition, where before it was just, to me, it was just a little bit off. So those are just little design things that we can fix pretty simply. Now at some point here, we're going to come down, and I think we're going to switch it right here. See how this transition we did from the thicker area to the thinner? Basically, we're going to do the same thing on right here. It doesn't look as perfect as I wished it did. when you're making those types of transitions. But you know, there are some limitations in what you can do with rhinestone, so I just, try to ignore it. But it doesn't, it's not quite as smooth as I'd hoped, but it's as smooth as you're going to get, you know, within your abilities to do with stones. All right, now we're going to go ahead and grab that outside line, sort the spacing there. I'm going to grab that inside line one more time and sort the spacing there. Okay, so obviously we've got this little line right here that we have to account for. And then the same thing here. It's a little bit tight there, but we can nudge that stone a little bit. Then come right over here, and that actually will help with our transition too. And we can possibly do something like that. So we'll set that spacing. We'll come up here and set this, reset that spacing. There we go. So now we have that part of the design in. Let's go ahead and put this in. And space those out. Okay. So the next major part of the design is up top here. So let's go ahead and get that in place. We're going to do it basically exactly the same way we did as the bottom. So we're going to just decide where our transition is going to be. And I'm going to say it's going to be right there. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to handle these laces. We're going to do a single stone width, or exactly what we're going to do there. Let's go ahead and bring that all the way around those SS10 stones, right along that curvature. Get my control handles out here so I can really fine tune that curved line there. And I'm just going to go ahead and come all the way down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of keep going along. Just change that stone out. Kind of keep that curve coming along there. We'll connect these two. And I think I can get that point just like the original. Add some additional stones there. That looks pretty good. Now, I don't like, there's a little bit of a dip there again, so I'm just going to draw a path that I think I will like. And then right click and snap all the stones to it. And that curvature I like pretty well, so I'm just going to leave that. Okay, so let's come back over here. And I'm going to just go ahead and put in a row of SS6 stones there. I just want to be able to get these laces put into place, so I want to get those stones in first, though. And we're gonna go to an SS6 there. So much of the design is really just a matter of the designer's preference. So there really is no right or wrong way to design. Just whatever you think looks good. Space those out a little bit. Space those out a little bit. All right, so now we can go ahead and put in this little design part here where there's just like kind of like a straight line. And it comes all the way down and around. We'll get that outside done first. And right here, we're going to say it changes. So we're going to split off just like we did previously with two SS6 stones. Got that path that we can manipulate. And that looks good. We'll sort all those stones. Turns the spacing. That looks good to me. What we can do here, that'll just help us fine tune that center there. Get it a little bit more filled in for us. Just help us perfect it a little bit. And I think I'm going to go ahead and switch out to 2 6s here too. That'll allow us to change that to a 10. And then I want to just touch up that spacing a little bit going this way. So let's go ahead and select a bunch of stones in this direction. Right click. Spread those out a little bit more evenly. Then we're going to spread these stones. And then finally we'll spread out these. I'll nudge that one over just a little bit. So just that transition, I think, just works a little bit better there. It's not 100% perfect, but looks pretty good. All right. So now we'll come down here. We'll do the same kind of thing here. Make us a little room. Let's drop that to a 6. Gives us a little bit more room there. Then we're just going to fill in this gap. Well, we'll go down to a 6 there, I guess. Maybe what we could do is switch those. Nope, back to a 6. Slide that in. We'll space those out. Okay, so that is that transition. So now we just really have just that one area that we got to work with here. I'm not happy. There's something about that curvature I'm not real happy with. So I'm just going to try and fix that a little bit. Get those stones to just snap along that curve a little bit different. I guess that's as smooth as it gets. Those stones did not seem to move even the slightest. So we're going to switch this out. I'll do 1, 2, 3 going across. Got to do one more row of that before we would gain enough space to do 2 10s and a 6. We'll do the same thing again. One more time. Switch that to a 6. And now I think it's wide enough where we can put a 10 in between. So we'll come up here, figure this one out. So we'll do one more. And I think we'll be able to switch that to a 10 now and then just fill that in with a 6. So now I think we can just take those two and connect them. I'm going to add a stone. I think that takes care of that. So now let's take care of this little line here, this little line detail. I don't know if switching that to a 6 would get us, yeah, it'll probably give us enough space. Space that out a little bit. And space these out. I don't know what I did there. Something didn't space quite right though. Let's try it again. Well, that did it. But I didn't space what I needed to space. I needed that one too. There we go. Now we got her. Now we got it evenly spaced. By shifting it over a little bit, we could fit 2 stones in there. So there we go. So now it's just a matter of coming in here. Let's go ahead and fill in. Let's space all these out. That outside line there. Close up our container. So now our container is all closed up. Now it's just a matter of filling in the gaps. And once it gets to a certain point, let's go back up top here and see what we got going on up here. We can get some 10s in there. Now we might be able to fit 2 6s in there. There we go. Tight squeeze, and you can, you can cheat it a little bit if you need just a little bit to give it a little bit extra room. We can cheat those a little bit. But I think we're to the point where we can connect those two. And then we can go ahead and connect these two. Then we can make any little adjustments we would need to make. I think we're pretty good though. All right. Gonna close that up a little bit. So that's it, folks. Now let's take a look at the final product. I forgot to move it down. So let's do that. So that is the finished design. So I'm pretty happy with that. So that's another one in the books, guys. If you stayed through the entire design, thanks for watching. And be sure to check our other videos on creating designs. And I guarantee you'll learn a little something from each one. Thanks for watching.